All right. I want to welcome all of our viewers here today. I have the great pleasure of talking with Amy and Ricky from Oregon, very active freedom fighters. Proud to say that they're members of the NATF, National Action Task Force, working with us. And today we're just going to do a real quick overview on some of the activities that they've been involved in, particularly, among others, particularly how they've been going around the state of Oregon auditing sheriff's departments. So Amy and Ricky, welcome and glad to have you with me today. Tell us, what does that mean, auditing sheriff departments? What's that all about?
Just at first blush, it sounds very similar to like First Amendment auditing, which it is very similar to that. We just started our mission because we noticed some discrepancies. But what we noticed was that these sheriff's departments were putting out official statements saying that certain things either were or were not illegal, and they weren't acting in accordance with their own statements. So they would say, we believe the mask mandate is unconstitutional. You don't have to wear one if it's unconstitutional. So then you try to go get in the courthouse, and that same sheriff's department will arrest you for trespass if you're not wearing a mask. So that's what.
So they were putting out policy statements saying one thing, which was contrary to what they were telling you personally. So the sheriff would say, "Yeah, we're for this and we're for that," and then they put.
This is what they are.
Right.
Their statements. They put them out. They posted them online on Facebook, and sent out public notices that they weren't going to enforce the mask mandates or vaccine mandates. And we're like, well, let's go find out if you can get in their courthouses, because if you can't, that means they're enforcing it after they said they weren't going to.
Yeah, and then the courthouse is protected or guarded by the sheriff's deputies, right?
Yep. Yeah, so we're like, let's go find the one place that they guard, and if we can't get in there, then we know that they're lying, and then we can tell all the people who are like, oh, thank you for being such a constitutional sheriff. I wish all sheriffs would stand up for us. They were getting praised, in social media and everywhere for being such great guys. And let's go find out if they're such great guys. And it was very disappointing and disheartening to show up to all these sheriff's departments and have them tell us not only are they enforcing it, but they will enforce it to the point that they'll arrest us if we try and get into the courthouse without a mask on.
So they'll play politics in public, but the reality is something altogether different, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think there's a word for that, isn't there? Hypocrisy.
Yep.
Wow. I mean, that's really sad because, we rely so intently on our sheriffs to uphold the law. They are the single, highest law officer in the county. I mean, they can tell feds to go shove it.
They're literally our last line of defense against the tyrannical government, other than the people. And so we've gone to them and asked them, can we get into your courtroom or courthouse without a mask on? Well, not if the judge tells you to wear a mask, you can't. So then we ask them, does the judge have the right to grant us our rights before we ever go into the courtroom for due process? And they're like, on that piece of property, they do. They insist that the judges have full rights to tell us what to do without due process just because they work in that building.
Didn't I see in one of your videos, and folks, Amy and Ricky have done a number of videos. They have a whole library full of their encounters, which some really interesting interactions. But didn't I see in one where the sheriff's deputy said that the county commissioners were their boss and making the rules for the courthouse?
Yeah, that was Columbia County with Deputy Havey and Sheriff Pixley.
Yeah. And one of the commissioners actually came out of the building and chatted with us for a second. And he says, did he say? We just kept telling him how easy it is. You can just go and enforce the actual laws. You can just take a report on all the laws that we found saying that these mandates are unconstitutional, they're illegal. Just write up a report. Then you guys can figure out what to do with the report, like go arrest Kate Brown, Patrick Allen, and Chief Justice Walters for putting these mandates in place. And they're
Yeah.
like, no, we can't do that. We're not going to do that. It's just not that simple. It really is that simple.
Kate
really
Brown
is.
being the governor
Yep.
at the time. Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, it is that simple. There's nothing complicated about it. If you're reading the law,
Right.
of course, what complicates it is when you start getting political and you ignore the law based on politics.
Right.
Yep.
And that's where
And
we're
what's
at.
worse is, what's worse is they're not ignoring the law. They're enforcing mandates. So people are getting put through the criminal system, even though they've never been criminals.
And
They're not even breaking the law, but they're getting thrown into the legal system where they have to now go to court. They have to put on a mask to go to court to defend themselves for not wearing a mask.
Oh boy, yeah.
what's even worse is they're not even actually enforcing the mandate. If they were enforcing the mandate as it was written with the cited authorities, they wouldn't be forcing people to wear a mask because there's an exception in the cited laws for the authority for the mandate.
And people could use that exception,
Right.
but
they're
they ignore
ignoring
that.
it because they're ignoring that statutory authority because Kate Brown and OHA are saying, no, just arrest them anyways.
And what's even worse is we have all these attorneys who should or reasonably should know that these things are unlawful, and they're going along with it. They're just going along with it, getting their paycheck. They're letting their clients get railroaded and take plea deals for trespassing when they did nothing other than remain after they were told to leave because they weren't wearing a mask. So all these attorneys that people depend on they're being complicit in the railroading of law-abiding citizens and people who just want to do what we've always done, just breathe the air and not be forced into doing something against our will.
You know, there's a famous quote, and I forget who it's from, but I believe it's inscribed in the U.S. Supreme Court building, and that is, where the law ends, tyranny begins.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That was,
What
Thomas
more do we
Paine.
need to say?
Right.
That's where
I
we
beg
are.
I've begged these sheriffs. I've cried in front of them, and it's humiliating, you know? I've asked them, why don't you guys get together? You've watched our videos, you've seen them, you've all seen our videos. Why don't you sheriffs get together and look at what we're trying to present to you? Just look at it. Can't you just sit back and say, maybe Amy and Ricky are right. Let's look and find out if they are. We're not going to do that. We will not do that. We're not going to go through your paperwork, which are the laws. We just printed up laws that are written. We didn't write them. We just printed them up. This is your duty. This is the duty expected of you. Why aren't you doing it? And they're like, they all tell us, we appreciate what you're doing. We really do. But what you need to do is go file a lawsuit. What? We're all being forced into involuntary servitude. We're all being coerced into doing things we don't want to do. These things are against the law. They're felonies. And I have to go file a lawsuit in order to get some kind of remedy for what's happening here, for some action to be taken against these people who are doing this to us.
And being able to redress your grievances with your government is a portion of due process that is being denied because you can't even access the courts without giving up your due process.
Yeah, that's for sure. But you know, the reason they don't want to look at what you have, I believe, is my supposition, and I think it's pretty clear, that they know what they're doing is wrong. They know that what they're doing is contrary to their oath of office, and they simply don't want to recognize it.
Well, they don't want to.
That's the problem, is they did recognize it. And then through their recognition of it, they said, yeah, well, that was just a statement.
Yeah.
Because when they said it was unlawful, that was them recognizing that they know that it's unlawful. They know that it's violating their
Right.
oath.
They know what they're doing is wrong.
And then they're still going to do it. If you go up to them in person and ask, or if somebody else tells them to, they'll still do it.
They know they're criminally liable.
I would say that they have fear of the political machine more than they have fear of the people. And
Isn't that sad?
I think that's where things need to change. And for all of our viewers out there, this is why we all have to engage and put the pressure on our local officials to uphold their oath of office.
And I forgot what I was gonna say.
So, yeah, so that's a key issue. So, again, it's incumbent upon the people to take control of the situation, to do what you're doing. How many counties did you go to?
I think 15.
Yeah.
So, I don't remember exactly.
This is the month of October. I don't know if you can see it, but
Okay.
very well. But that's the month of October. And well, you know, Ricky and I had only met in July of 2021. We started doing these audits in September, the big end of August, and well into October. We haven't been to do an audit since November 3rd because we became targets because of our audits. And they essentially were pretty successful in shutting us down for a while. I don't know where I was going with that.
Yeah, they have, they have the power of force behind them. They have the power of
They do.
the jailer's key, which everyone is so afraid of.
Yeah.
The coercive effect of their office,
Yeah.
which is funny because that's exactly what's happening to them. Is they're being coerced. That's where their political fear comes from, is because they're being coerced, and they're not arresting the people, coercing them, which is a felony. You can arrest any politician in the United States, including the president, for committing a felony.
Yeah, absolutely. Now,
So
turning the
it's all
table,
being-
again, back to the point that the people have to put the fear into our public servants. I'd like to point out the incident that I saw in one of your videos where you actually did a citizen's arrest on a sheriff's deputy outside the courtroom.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, it's private person's arrest. We did.
And what I was so amazed at is this sheriff's deputy. He was kind of a little old guy, but he kind of sat down on the bench like a whimpering puppy and said, well, can I call my attorney? And he's like asking you what he can and can't do. And he was just sitting there like a whimpering puppy. And I was so amazed at that, which tells me one thing. It tells me that a lot of these guys, they don't know half of what you know about their job and how to do it properly and what the laws are to support any activity. And when confronted, they just kind of lose it. They lose their bearings, and all of a sudden fear starts creeping in that, wow, this guy's putting me under citizen's arrest, and he should have fear for that. If only we could get some backup on that,
Yeah, his own sheriff that he was recorded the day before saying was the one who coerced him to make coercive arrests at the courthouse. He's the one that testified against his own sheriff, and then that sheriff is the one that came and released him and said, no, you're good to go. He has a full confession of felonies on a public record that he just acquiesced in, covered up.
Oh, boy.
What's crazy about that county too is we'd spent like 2 days there. Spent like 3 hours the day before in the sheriff's office trying to get him to come out and talk to us. We showed the receptionist his letter. She goes, oh, everybody interprets that letter differently. Well, that's why we're here to talk to the sheriff, because we want to find out how he meant it. Since we can't get into your courthouse without a mask on, this piece of paper says he's not going to enforce it. So you're telling me it's how we're interpreting it. So we're here to talk to him about what he means by this letter. And it wasn't until after we placed Deputy Havey under private person's arrest that Sheriff Pixley actually showed up. So we had, in order to get to even talk to Pixley, we had to place his deputy under arrest. And that's the only reason he showed up in the first place.
Yeah, what's amazing is when things are in English, black and white, easy enough for an 8th grader to understand, they want to try to add all kinds of twisted, configured interpretations to say, oh, well, what we said, we didn't really mean to say.
Right.
And for us, it's always right now, since COVID started and all this BS, it's about the trespassing laws. They're using the trespassing laws vicariously, right, to get people into the legal system, you know, to charge them with crimes vicariously through this mask thing. They'll say, well, you're trespassing because they told you to wear a mask and you didn't. They asked you to leave. You're trespassing. And this is a huge misconception that's going on in the world. In the state of Oregon right now, they're trespassing people without a law being broken. And that's not how the law is written.
They're still doing it. There's not even a mask mandate anymore. But if stores still want to eject you for not wearing a mask, they'll still trespass you.
And I would suggest to everyone to look up the definition, the legal definition of the word trespass.
Yes.
Trespassing.
The
They're
word
using
lawful.
that, they're using that inappropriately because it's not a trespass by definition. And
Right.
so if you as a person out there get accused of trespassing, you have to know what trespassing is because they're misapplying that and it's inappropriate. And to me, it's a threat. It's a bluff to people who don't know any better. And if that issue were to go to court, I'd be surprised if it went to court because they know it's BS.
It goes to court here all the time. And this is the problem.
Well, they take pleas all the time.
This is the problem. It goes to court all the time. And the prosecutor, who should know better, is throwing plea deals out there. Though the prosecutor knows these people aren't guilty of trespass just because they weren't wearing a mask and they didn't leave when they were told to. The prosecutors know what the law says. They know there's a provision in the trespassing law that says you have to be there unlawfully. They skip right over that, skip right over the unlawful part, and they still offer plea deals to people, and these people will take it to trial. Prosecutors offer plea deals knowing that these people didn't actually commit the crime they're being accused of.
And see, that's where they get people. That's where they get people with our own ignorance. You know, people plead guilty to breaking a law that doesn't exist or being innocent in whatever the situation might be. And they volunteer themselves into a guilty plea just out of ignorance. And that's where education needs to come in. I mean, people are getting used and abused just based on their own ignorance.
Yep.
And
And
This is why we have to get engaged and learn where to draw the line, learn what your rights are, read the law, understand the law. And that's what NATF is all about, trying to help people with this so you don't volunteer yourself into a criminal record, taking punishment for something that you didn't even do to violate a law that doesn't even exist.
Right.
Right.
It's not even a law. It's not a law. It's a mandate. And we have a really good friend of ours who calls sheriffs for us because they know our numbers and our voices, and they'll hang up on us immediately. But we have a friend who calls them for us, and he has, I don't know how he gets these cops to stay on the phone for very long, but he has sometimes hour-long conversations with them talking about trespassing and the laws. And he usually gets them to be like, okay, hold on. I see what you mean. I see where you're going with this here. You're right. You're right. And then it's all of a sudden we can't talk anymore. I don't have anything else to say to you. Once they understand that we all know that they're screwing up, then all of a sudden they don't want to talk anymore.
Yeah.
But he's done a really good job. We need to see if we can get him to let us release some of these phone calls.
Yeah, he's holding on to all of them right now because he doesn't want the whole system finding out that he's reporting them all. He wants to just hit them with a nuke.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and that's I talked to him a lot, and we've pretty much come down to discovery that Title II and Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 are effectively done away with since COVID. Title II is your right to access public accommodations, which means you can't be there lawfully unless you're breaking a law. And Title VII is your right to employment indiscriminately unless you're breaking a law and they have good cause.
So in other words, they have to break the laws that are on the books in order to enforce the laws that are not on the books.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
And that's what they're doing, and they're getting away with it.
Yeah.
All the time. All the time. It's like,
What they're enforcing is customs and usages, not law or rules or ordinances.
Yeah.
Because if they were, like I said in the beginning with the EO, if they were actually enforcing the laws and the ordinances, you would be able to access without a mask because there's a statutory right exception in the prophylactic measures law that says you can require this unless someone has a personal objection or religious objection or some kind of mitigating circumstance like a disability.
Yeah. Well, so I think that one of the key messages here today for folks is that we need to educate ourselves because
Yes.
the entire system operates on bluff and bravado,
Mhm.
which is a nice word for threats, right?
Yep.
And they get away with it as long as you're, I don't want to say stupid, but let's just say ignorant. You don't know any better. You haven't taken the time to do your homework, do your due diligence, understand what your rights are, understand the law, take the time so that you can live your life with some semblance of freedom and not let these goons steamroll you.
Yep.
Okay, and that's what's happening. And
Like for comparison, I would say roughly 80 to 90% of the civil rights cases throughout history have been sit-in demonstrations where they've entered a restaurant, refused to leave unless they were or requested service and refused to leave, but did not cause any injury to anybody. But they were still arrested for breach of the peace, trespass, harassment, vagrancy, all these different vicarious charges. Like she was saying, like nobody's been charged with violating the governor's order. No one. That ORS is not in any court cases in Oregon.
so what I would tell people is that if you understand these things and you want to stand up for freedom, let them arrest you.
Yeah, it's
Let them arrest you. Let's take this to court. Don't be buffaloed. All right.
Yep. Don't take
And
a plea deal.
once you're in a position where you have been harmed, now you have been trespassed. Your rights have been violated, and now you have the right to make a claim.
Yep.
We turn the tables. We turn the tables on them.
Yep. Starts with tort trespass and it ends with criminal trespass. So even your public servants, when they refuse or unlawfully use or abuse their positions or fail to do their duties, and it affects that person adversely, that's a tortuous trespass, but it's also criminal coercion. If they're a public servant, because so if they're a cop, they're carrying a gun and a badge. And Evans versus United States 92 says that the coercive element is supplied by the office itself. So just because you work for the government, you already have a coercive effect to you.
And so it gives you extra cause to tread lightly.
Yes.
On people's rights. And when they don't, oops. Yeah.
Which is what they should be doing, but they don't,
Right.
And what you're saying is important, the public being educated, which is what Ricky and I had the mission that we've been on since we met. We've held many different meetings, I've made posters, we've made signs, we've printed up binders for people that have all the laws that we found that protects each and every individual. With, hey, these are the laws that protect us. Why aren't you using these laws and doing what you're supposed to be doing and protecting us?
Yeah, exactly. Wow. We have so much to talk about, the three of us, but I can't put it all into one session. So why don't we wrap it up here on this particular topic? I think that we've put out the message that people need to hear, and I hope people will gravitate towards that and take it to heart and start taking responsibility for their own freedom.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
And maybe the next one, we can go over the different methods I use to find the information that I've found so that people can go and learn on their own volition. Because I don't take any classes or anything. I had to figure out how to find all this information all on my own. But now that
you graduated from the 8th grade and you know how to read, right?
Yep.
Okay, that's your qualification.
That's the starting block right there.
Yeah, I think most of us can do that. So praise God. All right,
you got
folks.
a phone or internet and you can read. You can learn all this stuff.
Yeah. There's no reason why people can't start taking care of themselves to a large degree. So, hey, thank you guys for all you do. Thank you for your time today. And we'll look forward to continuing the conversation in another video coming up soon.
Awesome.
And if you guys want to go and check out our videos, they're on the YouTube channel Pollyaudice, POLLYAUDIS.
Pollyaudice is the YouTube channel. Great. Yeah. Oh, and folks, there's some good stuff there if you got some time. So I encourage you.
I got a few on my channel too that he doesn't have. Tracking treason is
Yep,
my YouTube
that's
channel.
Oh, tracking treason, huh?
Yeah.
Tracking treason. Is that 2 words?
Yep. 2 words.
Okay.
She
All
signed into her court hearings with that name.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, we'll sign off with that and keep up the good work.
All right,
Thanks
Mark.
so
Thank
much.
you.
So, folks, as you know, freedom is not free. We encourage you to join us, get involved, be informed, get engaged. If you're not with us, you need to be. If you're already a member of the forum, get active, be engaged. And it doesn't cost that much. Our website is free. We have a free version of the forum, which is full of powerful, impactful information that'll have an impact on your life. And we do have a premium version. If you can afford all of $5, that premium version is also available to you. So take whatever level you can handle, and we'll see you there. Take care and God bless.